Hi, I wanted to make another video. I was watching the fiasco with Disney merchandising and their products. This is about advertising and marketing. And from my research, from what I've looked at how things work, I'm going to give a one book that's a huge reference. So give a little bit of background, like many 80s kids, I was born in the 70s, but I was a kid in the 80s, like maybe 7, 8. So I was around when Star Wars came out, and I was a huge fan of products and things. And I got swooped into like G.I. Joe, Transformers, Thundercats, Ninja Turtles, all that. And so I saw the toys that made us. And since I have like an irrational passion for those things, I mean, like this almost obsessive connection. I've done a lot of like studying, looking into things like why. Why was it that I don't care about Scooby Doo or the Jetsons or Thundar the Barbarian the same way, or Black Star like I do He Man? And so the toys that made us was really insightful. It showed actually like behind the scenes marketing. It's on Netflix and it's something I like to recommend. But one of the most prominent epic toy companies was Hasbro. And the reason why is because they make G.I. Joe and Transformers. Two toy lines that were just iconic and epic. But before that, those were both part of a toy line called Diaclone Microman. And that actually had the first G.I. Joe size action figures, but it also had the Transformers, which they repainted and made into the Transformers. And that actually happened in the 70s, but no one really knew about it. So we get into the issue, why did the Transformers succeed? Why did these things succeed? The reason why this is important is that because Disney, with its, they were trying to reinvent story arcs and reinvent fandom. And so it's basically like taking Conan the Barbarian and trying to make it Pride and Prejudice. And I think in the terms of satire, you can make that work. I mean, you could make a Hellraiser a version of The Notebook. But the problem is that if you lean too heavy in this, you lose your fan base. And so it stops to become parody. And so usually when people do these risks, they'll do that as like a side thing, but not the main one. And that's kind of what they did with Star Wars and Marvel. I don't think it's wrong to have female heroes. I'm a big fan of female heroes. And in G.I. Joe, the toy line, two of the biggest selling Joes, I mean, that they were actually really popular and sold well, were a G.I. Joe named Scarlet, another one named the Baroness, and another one named Lady J. But there's a reason why that is. And so right now, Disney is sitting upon billions of dollars of losses in the movies. And it gets worse because they're also sitting upon about $1 billion in losses on toy sales. Of these failed products and our movies and TV shows that they made merchandising for. And so right away we're going to cut to like what the difference between the 80s and 70s were. And this isn't like conjecture, it isn't like thought. It's actually spoon-fed to us in the toys that made us. And documentaries on the Ninja Turtles, documentaries on what G.I. Joe and Transformers and how they came to be. Again, some of these are on Netflix, some of them are on YouTube. They're available. You might have to get a DVD of some of them. So basically, what happened is that they were controlling the advertising towards children in the 80s. They felt that it was predatory marketing, and the U.S. law passed a series of laws to prevent marketing to vulnerable people. And so the way the toy companies and these other businesses that wanted to sell products to kids got around this was making TV shows. They weren't really TV shows. So G.I. Joe is not really a TV show in the conventional sense. They're making TV to sell you products, and they have you develop an emotional attachment to the product. This is actually specifically talked about in social psychology, and there's a book by a guy named Ernest Deichter, and his book is like the Bible for doing this. It's called what is it? Motivating Human Behavior is the name of the book. But I found out about it because in the toys that made us, all the successful toy lines, there was someone who had access to this book, and they're holding it like the Bible. So I went to buy the book, and surprisingly, it was hard to find, and I don't think that's by coincidence. The magician's trick, pulling the curtain away, is actually by creating an emotional connection to characters and products. People see a toy, which is just a lump of plastic, And instead of thinking it's a waste, instead of thinking it's a utility, they have an emotional connection to the characters, to the theme, and it causes them to buy product. And so G.I. Joe, it wasn't just like a real American hero. These characters were real to me in my child's mind. They had substance. Optimus Prime wasn't just some abstract robot out there. He had a reality to him. He's like a beloved uncle, just like Megatron and Starscream. But this isn't, and you can go on, Ninja Turtles. It could be Donatello, Splinter, whatever. This isn't just like happening on accident. This was structured marketing for kids. And Star Wars, believe it or not, did the same thing. They used a lot of psychology in the toys. They created these deep emotional connections to children, specifically boys, but some of them were girls because like Barbie did the same thing with girls. But they targeted very, very specific things. Yes, some of these things are tropes. Some of these things are stereotypes. But the reality is, if we took a product like high heels, there's a bigger market for high heels for women than there is for men, or even like any other person, because transgender and stuff, they have their own market, and I'm sure that there's pluses and minuses depending on what type of trans someone is and what they would want, but they are very much part of a market. So if I had like a premium high heel company, if I targeted women, I'm much more likely to sell high heels, and it's just the way it is. If I targeted a football team, like let's say I target the New England Patriots to sell these premium high heels, I might sell a couple, but I'm very likely to go out of business. And the reason why is that I'm marketing my product to the wrong audience. And the reality of storytelling is that there's a story to tell everybody. We have some that are kind of monkey in the middle, and I think that Star Wars and a lot of the Marvel stories did a great job of being inclusive in their way. But they also had a clear understanding of this is who our primary audience is. We're going to sell football pads to the football players. We'll sell high heels to the people, the drag queens, or to the ladies that will wear high heels. And we're not going to bother putting too much attention and effort to spending money on markets that we know we're not going to get a return on the money. Now, every so often it's good, like a fish, to throw bait out there to see what you can catch, but you never bet the farm on stuff like that. So anyway, Ernest Eichter's book is about that. It's about how to create relationships to products. And it seems like it's silly, like this motivating human behavior, but you start reading the book and I was like, damn, this stuff really works. I mean, like you could take it completely out of context and not market a product, and it'll teach you how to talk to people. And again, marketing has this down. With the presentation of stories and stuff and actually getting people to connect to characters, that's a whole different thing. A lot of times people have tried to do that. And it's the very difference between telling a story that's meaningful versus one that people will consume. And so a lot of times if we look at like movies and things like that, what's popular and what actually makes the most money is not necessarily what's the most meaningful. And so usually the film that wins the best movie of the year, it's almost always what is the most meaningful film. But those films almost always lose money as well. The films that appeal to culture, that are usually like comedies and some sort of lighthearted melodrama where the good guys win, those always make the most money. And critics complain. It's like, why? Why is this movie? Like, why is Guardians of the Galaxy doing well? Oh, why? Why did Jurassic Park doing well? There's no depth to it. It's just CGI dinosaurs. It's because it's what people want to see. And when you give people what they want to see, they pay for it. They do. Sometimes people want thought-provoking, and I'm a storyteller, and I like thought-provoking, but I also realize that that's not what people want. People will every so often consider thought-provoking, but they're not going to go in droves to think about a tragedy or some sort of dark twist. We tell the stories that we want. And so on a personal level, not a big deal. Tell whatever story you want. If you're trying to make money, give people what they want. Market. Know your market. Well, anyway, Disney has created an apocalypse because right now Hasbro, again, it's ready to sink. It's almost $1 billion in losses in Marvel, but mostly Star Wars. And so all these characters that people were complaining about, Ahsoka is one of them, and I loved Ahsoka in the Clone Wars. And there's another, the female bad guy in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and these characters that no one wanted. Suri is a Black Panther. They're literally creating epic losses of revenue. So much so that there are lawsuits going on right now because the shareholders feel cheated, which they were, because typically you bet on Star Wars and that was $1 billion thing. Now it's like cancer and even a liability. And so we have a conundrum. And what I've started to realize is that a lot of people in Hollywood and a lot of people who think that they can make movies and they have the ability to make movies actually can't make movies. I mean, they can't tell a story. They don't have a clue. And you have people like Peter Jackson. He knows how to make a film. I'm trying to remember who's behind the first wave of Marvel. Kevin Feige, I think is his name. That guy's a genius. He knows how to make films. The people, they're people, and it's like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas. They know how to make films. And you can take something that's literally gold in their hands. And what we're seeing is that you give that gold to someone else and they'll find a way to turn it into manure. They literally will find a way to turn it into manure. And again, I think that's a lot. It's like trying to sell high heels to an NFL team. You might get a dude or a couple of them that'll buy it on the team. Most of them aren't interested. It doesn't mean high heels are wrong. It just means that they don't want to buy them. And you're selling them to the wrong people. The other thing is, too, is that can you create mass appeal with something like that? Maybe. And so the typical approach that we've had, because Hollywood, they don't want to take a risk. And so what they're doing is that they're taking existing IP and they're trying to like Dr. Frankenstein it into something else. And if they just made a movie where they had like these themes and they worked out, it might just work. And so two franchises that I thought of that did this really well. Alien. The Alien franchise does a female hero beautifully. I mean, like, so captivating, so intriguing. It's like you wouldn't want anything else. Another franchise that does this wonderfully is Underworld. Another one that did it really well, but it was, I'm not really sure if the films were a financial success, but over time they've stood up and the IP is done really well. It's a video game-based franchise. It's called Resident Evil. But, they did fantastic. The Fifth Element, great job of a female hero. I think these people don't know what they're doing, and they forgot that if I'm making a show like Kenobi, if I'm making a show like Ahsoka, if I'm making a show like The Acolyte, those shows are not about making a statement. They shouldn't be. I mean, maybe pick one and make a statement. Those things go back to the 80s. That television show exists as a commercial, like fan service. And the way you're going to make your money back is getting people so excited about stories that they want to hear that they're going to buy products from that line. Because otherwise there is no return on their money. It isn't like we have a rating system now when things are streaming. People just stream. I mean, you get subscriptions, but if people are really excited about a show, like I remember when The Mandalorian came out, wow. People got excited. Let me get a Disney Plus membership. And then it metamorphosized. It became the Bo-Katan show. I have nothing against Bo-Katan, but why not call it the Bo-Katan show? And she's a great actor, don't get me wrong, but no one was there to see that. And you start to see a decline, and people lose interest in The Mandalorian. Now all of a sudden it doesn't matter. Well, why is that? Because, do you go see Wicked and not see Elphaba? You're just going to see a servant in Oz's mansion named Elmore, and you're going to watch him take out trash. Just imagine if you go to a movie and you see that. You're paying to go see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and you end up seeing Danny DeVito, and it's not even Danny DeVito that you want to. You end up with a Danny DeVito documentary when you went to go see The Fast and the Furious.
You do that, people feel cheated, and they feel betrayed. They don't want to see the movie. They don't buy the product. They end up being jaded. I mean, someone may find it humorous, but why didn't you just make the Danny DeVito documentary? I mean, why did you have to go through all the trouble to try to like twist it and cheat your fans? Well, they're paying a price for that. So I know I'm kind of rambling, but the final element that I wanted to talk about, and this is an important one, is actually products. People are having a hard time. There's no doubt about it. And this has been an ongoing thing, and there's no political party that's going to help with this. We've been on a steady decline since the 70s. I mean, just being honest. When you're looking for a candy bar becoming like, what was it, like maybe 50 cents, 25 cents, a comic book, 50 cents, 25 cents. Now that same equivocal thing, $8 for the comic book, $2 for a candy bar. I mean, like, we've had wicked bad inflation since the 70s, since I've been alive. And it's only getting worse. Things are more and more expensive, and people can't afford nothing. You know, you have to work 2, 3 jobs and live together with other people working 2, 3 jobs just to like survive. That's becoming a reality. Well, even with an emotional connection to a product, if it doesn't have high quality, that's one, right? If I try to sell you cheap stuff, I'm not going to buy it. And if it's super expensive, even though I want to buy it, I can't buy it. It's just out of my reach, right? I mean, because there's no amount of wishing for my $5 to turn into $20. It doesn't happen. There is no a genie from Aladdin like gonna turn that $5 into $20. People try. They try to like lottery and they try to like do all these things, but that don't work. It just does not happen. And so the buy-in price for a lot of these toys, $50. You know, some of these toys, they were literally like $2, $3 in the 80s, right? I mean, no joke. Now he's $30. And you know, equivocally, maybe $30 is only like $20 to 80s money. Maybe it's only like $15. People did not buy G.I. Joes because G.I. Joes cost $15 a Joe. If that happened, the toy line would have failed right away. G.I. Joes, when they came out, were like $2.50. Now, equivocal in today's money, that's probably $5, $7, but it's still highly affordable. A transformer, like a good transformer, I think like what would it be, Prowl, Starscream, like not the super deluxe ones, but the really good ones. You're looking at a guy that's $10, $10. Equivocally, that toy today would probably cost, and this is just me guesstimating, it's about maybe like he would cost $40 to get that toy, and he'd be worse quality. And the big ones like Optimus Prime, they're 20, 25. That toy today would be $70. No joke. And so why would you buy something that's poorly made and super expensive? Even if you want to, you can't. And so they're in trouble. Things are going on clearance. And a lot of these things may fail. I mean, I never thought I would live to see a toy company like Hasbro, an iconic toy company like Hasbro, or an iconic toy company like Mattel potentially go out of business. I mean, they may not exist. I never, ever, ever thought that I would ever see someone ruin Star Wars. But I've seen that happen over and over again. And Marvel, I loved it. I mean, I read it, I lived it, I breathed it. I still buy comic books, but not modern ones. I mean, I haven't bought a modern comic book in about like 7, 8 years. There's a reason why. I mean, the production quality's never been better. The stories are just crap. I mean, every so often there's something worth reading, but it's just like hollow. I mean, and every so often, I mean, there's brilliant artwork and things, but even that, I mean, it's so manufactured. So what I find is that most of the fandom that I do, and I still am like brainwashed by G.I. Joe. I mean, that marketing thing, Ernest Deichter, man, he got me like fish on a hook. I mean, like, because the Ninja Turtles, I can't shake it. The G.I. Joe, can't shake it. Transformers, can't shake it. But what I find is that I'm getting retro stuff. I don't buy modern things. Marvel Comics, can't shake it. Most of the books I buy are like from the 80s, at the worst, the 90s. But if I can, it's the 70s, 80s, and before that. No modern books. And again, there's no value to it. I mean, I'd much rather pay $50, $100 for a book that I like than even to spend $6 on a book that's crap. But again, in today's economy, I'm not buying much of much. I mean, like milk, bread, gas, it's cut down on a lot of things. And so now instead of, oh yeah, that's Spider-Man number 7, I have to have that. Nope. I need to save money for gas. And I look at that book and I'm like, damn, I wish I could have got him. Same thing in Ninja Turtle. Hey, it's a new Ninja Turtle. He look cool. I really like to have that toy. How much does he cost? $17.99. Damn, not buying that today. And so that's the problem. But again, with the Disney stuff, I mean, like, it's cases and cases. I mean, it's literally like an endless ocean of toys that didn't sell. Disney has literally recreated E.T., the Atari game. And these things are going to find their way to a landfill near you. And we'll be talking about these epic mistakes. I think it's going to be a lesson in how not to go and how to go bankrupt. And businesses are going to follow this. I mean, because, yeah, how many billions of dollars? As far as I know, I think with the movies, I think it's like $3 to $4 billion that they've lost. It's probably a couple billion in toy sales overall. Yeah. I mean, if someone loses you $5 billion, $3 billion, you gonna keep them employed? You gonna keep on pushing their ideas? No, it's time to fire them. Time to fire them and reset. Anyway, big enough deal, I thought to talk about it. And it's something to consider about the marketing. I mean, because how much of what we buy, how much of that is just an emotional connection to a product that's been very carefully delivered to us. And once it like sinks in, like Coca-Cola, oh, I can't have happiness or refreshment until I have a Coca-Cola. That's a bunch of crap. It's believing the commercial. But once that sets in, oh my, so hard to get rid of. So hard. I mean, it's like good luck because it sticks with you. It's like it's like a parasite that burrows into your brain. And once you connect to it, it's like, why am I buying this? What's going on? Yeah. But even finding a way to mess that up, I mean, that's special. I mean, it's like causing somebody who has a buying addiction, a product addiction, to quit cold turkey and not have any guilt about it. I didn't even think it was possible, but Disney showed us the way. Give them crap and they will quit. That's all I had to say. I wanted to record it, so yeah.